All right, let's talk about creatine. All right, let's start with what is creatine and how it works. Um, this is actually the boring part. There's a little bit of biochemistry in it. I'll try my best to make it interesting and get through this part as quickly as possible. I know you want to know how to get jacked and shredded as quickly as possible. Um, yeah, I have a diverse audience. I have a lot of health professionals, personal trainers, nutritionists following me, so they are more interested in knowing how things work. It's good to know how things work anyway, even if this part, if you even if you are not, even if you don't get the whole thing, all this part, it's fine. You don't need to understand any of this to use creatine. But I wanted to do an in-depth video on creatine anyway, so we'll do this part. All right, what is creatine? Creatine is a combination of three amino acids. We produce or synthesize creatine in our body primarily in liver and to a lesser extent in kidneys and pancreas as well. So it's important to understand and have that distinction. Creatine is not something artificially created or synthesized in a lab. Our body produces it, right? Apart from the creatine we produce in our body, we can get creatine from food, primarily from animal protein sources, meat, fish, and obviously we can get creatine from supplement form or supplement version as well. Right. When creatine enter our body, either from the supplement version or from food or the creatine synthesized in liver, creatine bind to a phosphate molecule to form creatine phosphate or phosphocreatine, which is the stored form or version of creatine, right? So the stored creatine or creatine phosphate, 95% of stored creatine is in our muscle tissue. Other 5% is in brain, liver, and kidneys and other tissues as well. Okay. Okay. So the important part to understand here, when creatine enters our body, creatine binds to a phosphate molecule and form phosphocreatine, and 95% of it is stored in our muscle tissue. Right. So I'm just gonna leave it there for now, and I'm just gonna move over to the right side of this slide and explain this process. Unfortunately, you guys can't see my mouse pointer. If you could see it, would have been better, but apparently there is no way to record it in Mac, unfortunately. Yeah. All right. You guys probably heard of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is the energy currency of body. We need ATP for pretty much everything. We even need ATP to go form more ATP. We need ATP for pretty much everything. Chemical structure of ATP: three phosphate molecules bind to one adenosine molecule, right? So one adenosine molecule plus three three phosphate groups. Okay, right. I said we need ATP to do everything. So when we eat, our body, we break down chemical bonds of food to form ATP. So when our body oxidize macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fat in order to produce ATP, right? So when ATP produce energy for muscle contraction, to do a bicep curl here, it does that by hydrolyzing or breaking, in simple terms, one phosphate group from that three phosphate group, right? So when that happens, ATP becomes ADP. So we had three, we lost one, now it becomes ADP, die for two. Okay, so ADP is pretty much useless. If you want to use that again for energy, we have to recycle that back to ATP. We only store about 80 to 100 grams of ATP at a time in our body, so we have to make that 80 to 100 grams is only enough for a few seconds of intense activity. So we have to make ATP as we go along. Right, so this is where creatine comes in. Remember, I said creatine binds to one phosphate molecule to form creatine phosphate. So when when we have to recycle ADP back to ATP, what we are missing, we need one phosphate molecule to convert that back into triphosphate, right? So triphosphate 3. So creatine donate that phosphate molecule. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. So then in this process, one of the byproduct is creatine. So when creatine phosphate donate one phosphate molecule, one of the byproduct of that process is creatinine. Just remember creatinine for now because it comes later when we talk about if creatine cause kidney damage or not. So it comes back later. Just remember that for now, right? Cool. The boring part is over. Now we'll get into the more interesting stuff. All right. How to take creatine for men and women? There are a few different ways of taking creatine. We'll start with creatine loading. So if cycling, you can cycle creatine. What cycling means, so you take it for a while, come off it, then you can do the same thing, right? You don't have to do it, but there's nothing wrong with doing it either. So if you're cycling, you can do a loading phase. You can go 0.3 gram per kilogram of body weight for 5 to 7 days. So for example, I'm 70 kilos. If I were to do a loading phase of 5 to 7 days, 0.3 into 70, 21 grams per day. Round it up for 20. I would break it down to 4 doses, 5 grams each, and I will take 4 times during the day, space it out throughout the day. Okay, then I will do that for 5 to 7 days. Then after 5 to 7 days comes the maintenance phase, right? So in maintenance phase, if you are going with body weight, you can do 0.03 grams per kilogram of body weight. So same, using a same example, 70 kilograms, it comes to 2.1 grams, right? Or you can just use 5 grams per day. Creatine is fairly cheap, and it's been tested for much higher doses, and it's been shown to extremely safe for long-term use. So 5 grams has pretty much become the universal dose. So if you want to do that, totally fine too. Right. So if you're not cycling, if you're someone new starting strength training for the first time, or if you're starting taking creatine for the first time, you can just do it. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention. So the cycling. So you do a loading phase 5 to 7 days, then you do maintenance for 3 to 4 weeks, then you can do a washout period, come off creatine for 1 to 2 weeks, then repeat the whole process, right? So that's cycling. You don't have to do it, but you can do it if you want to. Right. If not cycling, you can just do that loading phase exactly same as I previously explained, 0.3 grams per kilogram for 5 to 7 days, or just 20 to 25 grams for 5 to 7 days, then take 5 grams continuously. You don't have to do cycling or stop creatine. Okay. Cool. The next method, this is my favorite method, just taking it, just 5 grams per day continuously. There are non-responders do exist. If I remember correct, 20 to 30% of population are non-responders to creatine. Don't call me on that number, it's just a vague number in my mind. Yeah, so non-responders, there's no specific way of recognizing non-responders. There's probably a genetic component to it. If you do not experience the common benefits of creatine, like strength gains and body weight going up, it's possible you are a non-responder. You can try higher doses like 10 grams because again it's been shown to save that dose for long-term use. You can try 10 grams and see if you experience benefit with a higher dose. Right. You can also use higher doses like 10 grams if you have more lean mass, if you are a bigger person, and also if you have high activity level. Cool. All right, which form is the most effective? Creatine monohydrate is usually the cheapest version, and it's almost 100% bioavailable. Bioavailable, what that means in simple terms, almost 100% absorbable, right? All the other forms are either equally as effective as creatine monohydrate or less effective. So you have this cheap version and all the other versions either equally effective or less effective. So why do you want to pay extra money to something equally effective or less effective, right? It's a no-brainer. Creatine capsules have about 35% lower bioavailability than powder version. Again, the creatine tablets are more expensive than the powder version and they are less effective. Why do you want to pay extra money for something less effective? Some people can experience gastrointestinal discomfort with creatine monohydrate, with creatine in general. This usually happens when you do the loading phase. Just 5 to 10 grams don't really give any problems to most people. But if you do experience any gastrointestinal discomfort, you can use micronized version of creatine monohydrate. All right, is creatine loading essential? No, not really. Long-term loading, non-loading, both methods produce equal results. You don't have to do creatine loading. Why loading? The benefits and why people load is mostly psychological. When you do loading, your creatine saturation it happens faster because you are taking a lot of creatine in a short period of time, right? So you will see strength going up quickly. You will get better pumps because your cell hydration goes up. So yeah, so that's, but in the long term, you get equal benefits. Okay, so most of them are psychological. You don't need to cycle creatine, but if you want to, there's nothing wrong with doing it. Do I need to take a break from creatine? You don't have to. We pretty much everyone that break just happened naturally anyway. When you run out of creatine, it takes you days to get a new tub, or you go on a holiday, you forget to bring your creatine. Week or two, that breaks. Just consider that as a break. You don't have to plan it. All right, is creatine bad for kidneys? Okay, why is this even an issue? Where does this come from? Remember in the first slide, I talked about creatine and I said, okay, just remember creatine for now, and it'll come back later. So this is where it comes back. When creatine phosphate donate that phosphate molecule, one of the byproduct of that process is creatinine, right? Creatinine happens to be the most common indicator of kidney function. So when creatinine level goes up in the blood, it's a fair question to ask, is this going up because your kidney don't do the sorry about that. It's a fair question to ask if the kidneys don't do the job it's supposed to do, right? But in this case, it's your creatinine level goes up not because your kidneys don't do the job. It's because you are taking creatine as a supplement. Okay, so definitely your creatinine level in the blood will go up compared to your regular person. This is one of those scenarios of interpreting correlation as causation. This happens a lot. So this is why you cannot or you shouldn't try to apply common sense to physiology. It never works, right? Studies, there are heaps of studies that done in this area, and it's been proven again and again there is no kidney damage with using creatine supplements, right? The first study, I picked few. There are more studies than this. 310 days, so it's almost a year. Decent time frame. 175 participants. Decent sample size. 10 grams per day. We usually take 5. For most people, 5 grams is enough to experience the benefits. 10 grams per day. No negative effects of kidney function. No negative effects on kidney function. Next one, 15 grams for 5 days, so it's like a loading phase. 3 grams maintenance phase, no negative effects on kidney function. 12 weeks, 10 grams per day. Age between 18 to 35, no negative effects on kidney function. That's in people with healthy kidneys. So this one is the next slide. Uh, People with kidney issues. So research is limited in this, a bit limited in this area compared to in people with healthy kidneys. 25 type 2 diabetic patients with various stages of kidney disease for 12 weeks, no significant decline in kidney function. Case study, a man with single kidney, 20 grams per day for 5 days, 5 grams per day for 30 days, no harm to the kidney. Okay. All right, summary. In people with kidneys, 10 grams or less per day, creatine supplementation don't impact kidney health. In people with kidney issues, limited long-term evidence available at this stage. Short-term evidence suggests supplementing with creatine may be safe. Okay, the take-home point, if you don't have any pre-existing kidney issues, creatine is completely safe to use. You have nothing to worry. If you do have pre-existing kidney problems, use creatine is still probably be safe to use, but you need to monitor things closely. All right, let's move on to the next. All right, does creatine cause hair loss? So the most common two questions are the kidney issues and this one, the hair loss one, right? Okay. All right, let's go through the study first. Where does this come from? To this day, there's only one study directly looked at on DHT levels. 20 healthy young male rugby players, 25. So DHT is a metabolite of testosterone, dihydrotestosterone. 25 grams for 7 days, 5 grams for 14 days. So it's a 1 week loading phase and maintenance for 2 weeks after that. Changes in testosterone level were not significant. DHT was significantly increased at day 7. No statistical errors in the study, so it's a legit study. Participants were tested for anabolic steroids and none detected. So they want to test participants if this DHT level went up because of creatine use or something else. So they were tested and they none detected. They were clean. Cool. This is the only study that has tested creatine effect on DHT. DHT, like I mentioned before, it's a metabolite of testosterone, and it's directly linked to hair loss. All right. So we continue. We're still on the same point. Evidence: creatine supplementation on testosterone levels. Right. 10 randomized control trials showed no significant effect on testosterone levels. Not going to talk about what RCT now because I'm planning to do something on study methods in the future. So I'm just going to leave it at there for now. 2 randomized controls showed increase in testosterone. So vast majority of the evidence suggests creatine has no significant effect on testosterone level, right? So summary. Why did you even look at the testosterone studies when we talk about hair loss? There's only one study has examined direct link between creatine supplementation and DHT levels to date. Majority of studies examine creatine supplementation and effect on testosterone levels show no significant increase. Since DHT is a metabolite of testosterone, it's doubtful creatine supplementation causes hair loss. Your body can increase DHT level without increasing testosterone. There are other ways. If future studies show consistent increase in DHT, creatine supplementation could be a possible reason for hair loss. So at this stage, there's one study, and a lot of other studies shows creatine has no impact. Creatine has no significant impact on testosterone levels. I cannot 100% say at this stage creatine does not cause hair loss. But what I can say, I wouldn't worry about it at this stage. But if things comes up in the future, I will update you guys. I'm on top of this stuff. So if something comes up in the future, if there's more studies and if they can replicate the same results, I will let you know, guys. All right, is there an ideal time to take creatine? Some evidence suggests creatine uptake improved by insulin. Post-workout supplementation is more effective than pre-workout supplementation. So when you Compare pre-workout supplementation and post-workout supplementation. Post-workout supplementation shown to be a bit more effective. Um, that shouldn't come as a surprise anyway. After a workout, in general, your body's nutrient uptake is high, so it shouldn't come as a surprise. Right. You don't have to take creatine at the same time or a specific time of the day, but if it's convenient, let me repeat, if it's convenient, you can take it post workout with either a meal, or if you're taking a protein shake, you can mix it with protein shake, or you can take it at the same time to get that insulin benefit. You don't have to necessarily have carbs to get that insulin response. A protein shake would trigger that insulin response enough to have the benefits. Okay, so you don't have to unnecessarily add carbohydrates to get that insulin response, especially if you are trying to lose weight. It's probably not a good idea. Yeah, me personally, I take my creatine at night with my last meals. Not with, I just eat, then I take my creatine. Yeah, so the important part is take at a time that you can do consistently every day, so you won't forget. So that's the most important thing. Yeah, so yeah, the post workout supplementation might be marginally beneficial, but yes, not important. All right, cool. Is creatine safe to use? Are there any side effects? Creatine is one of the most well-researched and established sports supplements. No serious adverse health concerns or side effects in healthy people associated with long-term creatine use. Okay, cramps can occur if you don't drink enough water, and diarrhea and nausea with larger doses of these things happen mostly when you do the loading phase. It's one of the reasons I don't like to do loading phases with clients. This is for people who work in the health industry. If you are a personal trainer or a nutritionist, use creatine with clients. Imagine you get a brand new client, never been to a gym, never used the sports supplements before. Then you do the loading phase, and they start experience these cramps, diarrhea, nausea, and they can get turned off very quickly because they never used it before, and they will not be open to use any sports supplements or even the creatine in the future, and they can get off they can get turned off to even training. So these things are important. Yeah, so we don't work with robots, so we work with people, so you have to think that psychological aspect as well. Yeah, creatine is pretty safe to use long term. I don't know if you guys know who's Jose Antonio. Is one of the professors, does a lot of studies on protein creatine. He gave creatine to his 5-year-old child. I wish my parents gave me creatine when I was 5 years. I could have been the most jacked kid in the school. Creatine interaction with caffeine. Okay, this is one of those weird ones. We just need to think logically and see what we need to do. Only one study looked at creatine plus caffeine supplementation on muscle contraction. At that study showed negative benefits. However, creatine plus caffeine seemed to have no adverse effect on high intensity interval training performance. In fact, creatine and caffeine showed improved performance, right? Similar benefits have not been shown in longer aerobic bouts. So if it's a long-term bout, don't matter. But one study showed negative benefits, two studies showed positive benefits. So this is one of those weird ones. If you don't have to take creatine with caffeine, don't take creatine with caffeine. Just take it at a different time. If you are I personally drink a coffee before my workout. A lot of people do. So use creatine at a different time of the day. If you are mixing creatine to your pre-workout, most pre-workout have a lot of caffeine. If you can conveniently take creatine at a different time of the day, maybe do that. Again, this is one of those things that we just have to wait and see what happens in the future when more evidence or studies comes up. I'll inform you guys, but that's all we got so far. Benefits of creatine. Creatine is one of those things that have so many benefits and is so cheap. It's crazy. Like, everyone should be using it. Increase in lean body mass. Weak evidence. Why is weak evidence? There are a lot of studies in this area, but most studies confounded by total body water gain. So when that happens, statistical power of the studies become weaker. So that's why it's weak studies. Increase in muscle strength and power output. So this is very well established. Over 60 well-conducted studies show strong evidence, strong causation. So when your strength and power output goes up, you can lift heavier weights, which means you can apply progressive overload, which means you can build more muscle. So you can make a pretty good case for muscle gain. Weight increase, strong evidence because of that total body, because of that increase in total body water. Depression symptoms improved, cognition improved in vegetarians. So going back to the first slide, remember I mentioned the primary food source that we get creatine from is meat and fish. So if you are a vegetarian, it's highly beneficial for you to supplement creatine. Okay, yeah. So it's not just muscle gain and strength. Overall well-being improved. There's so many studies done with creatine. DNA damage reduced, dizziness reduced with people had head injuries, headaches improved, alertness, cognition. It's insane. It's highly beneficial. All right, water retention. Water retention is one of the main reasons most people get turned off or don't want to use creatine, especially females. But that total body water increase, so the weight going up, is not a bad thing. It's one of those things that you shouldn't really focus on the scale. Creatine supplementation does not influence the ratio between intracellular water and skeletal muscle mass. So going back to the first point, it does actually happen. It's not a bad thing. Creatine supplementation increase total body water without altering fluid distribution. So what does that basically mean? Creatine increase cell hydration, so inside intracellular water level goes up, extracellular water does not go up, so you're not going to look bloated or watery. Okay, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing creatine does. You don't have to stop creatine leading up to a bodybuilding or a physique competition. I never do. None of my clients stop creatine. We take creatine leading up to the competition. Remember what I said before. When we go to a competition or a photo shoot, what we need to lose is extracellular water, not intracellular water. If you lose intracellular water, muscle bellies start to look flat. You don't want that on the stage. You want to look. You want round, full muscle bellies on the stage with a dry skin. So we need to get rid of that extracellular water, but try to keep as much as intracellular water. Right. Weight class athletes may have to stop creatine 1 month before the weigh-in if they are struggling to make weight. You will not lose strength or lean mass when you stop taking creatine. Okay, so if you are a weight class athlete, MMA, wrestling, if you are struggling to make weight, you can stop creatine about 1 month before. It takes about 1 month to return to baseline creatine level. So you can stop creatine 1 month before to get rid of that extra water. Also, if you are a personal trainer or a coach, don't load creatine people before they go to a competition, because when you compete in an elite level, even if you are a runner and you train with a specific or a regular normal body weight, or their normal body weight, then when you go to when you show up to the competition with a couple of kilos heavier, that can really deteriorate the performance. Okay, so I have heard the stories. So if you are a coach and athlete, just keep that in mind. One more thing before we move to the next. There are supplement companies actually claim their version of creatine do not increase the water retention or the total body water. Be aware of them. It's either they are lying to you or they are using a less bioavailable crappy version. That's why the water retention doesn't happen, because if creatine does not get absorbed, of course the water retention doesn't happen. So either way, run away from them. They are either lying to you or they are using a crappy version. Does creatine cause cancer? Okay, where does this even come from? A French scientist charcoaled a pig. Then when he tested, creatine inside the muscles has become slightly carcinogenic. So he came to the conclusion creatine can cause cancer. It's just one of those ridiculous things. Yeah, you probably shouldn't bake creatine. It's the good thing about this is not a common myth. I don't think anyone ever asked me about this, but it's out there. If you can hear about in the future if you haven't heard it before. It doesn't happen. Okay, it does not happen. It's nothing to worry. Creatine shown to protect DNA from oxidative damage. So, don't worry about it. All right, Q&A. I posted this question. I asked people to post questions they have about creatine. Most of them should have been answered by now, but I'll go through one by one and answer any of the question if it's not covered in the things we talked about so far. I have the presenter view here. The words are very small, so I'm gonna load this up on my phone. All right, let's see. Creatine every day. Okay, creatine every day or only on training days? Every day. Will creatine give you pumps for muscles? Yeah. Creatine increase intracellular water. You will get pumps. Yeah. Sorry. What's the use of creatine in long term, or does it only give temporary water retention? Heaps of benefits. I talked about it in detail. Does creatine cause hair loss? Talked about it. Side effects. Tiyanawada. Talked about it. Creatine වලින් තියෙන effect එක මොකක්ද body එකට? Talked about it. Hair loss. Talked about it. How does creatine work? Talked about it. Is loading period mandatory or not? Talked about it. How much do we need and how long we can use it for? 5 grams is enough for most people to experience benefits, but you can use creatine forever. Does body naturally make it? Yes, it does. How much water you should drink if you are having creatine? There's no specific amount. You should drink enough water regardless you have creatine or not, so drink enough water. I was using creatine daily, but unfortunately I stopped using it for a period of 30 to 45 days. There is no question. Okay, so it takes about 30 days for creatine to return to baseline level. So if you want to, you can do a loading phase to increase that saturation faster, or you can just take 5 grams continuously. Should it be taken at the same time every day? No, I talked about it. How long can it be taken at a stretch? Forever. Is it safe for long-term use? Yes. Why everyone says drink a lot of water when you take creatine? Okay, first of all, you shouldn't listen to what everyone says, but you can get stomach cramps if you don't take enough water. You should drink enough water. You recommend flavored or unflavored, or is it the same thing? It's the same thing. The flavored ones are usually more expensive. Does the same job. So yeah. At what time of the day you should? At what time of the day should I take it, or for maximal outcome, in the golden hour, or does it matter at all? I don't know what the golden hour means. Do you mean anabolic window? If it's convenient, take post workout. Other than that, I wouldn't personally worry about it, but if it's convenient, take it post workout. Preferably with a meal or something, shake or yeah. Is loading beneficial as opposed to 5 grams of the day of monohydrate? Can creatine cause gastritis? Long term, no, it's not beneficial. It produces the same benefits or same results. Can creatine cause gastritis? Gastritis is not one of the common side effects, if that's even a thing. But it can affect different people differently. So if you do experience gastritis, maybe try a different brand or micronized version of creatine monohydrate. Yeah. Good or bad, and how much? Okay, we talked about it. How often I should cycle it? If you do cycle it, 3 to 4 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, washout period, but you don't have to. Do I need to load up again because I left using around 45 days? Okay, I think the other part is from the same person. Asked that for 30 to 45 days thing. You can, definitely you can, because in about 30 days it'll become to the baseline. What do I do if I miss a day? What to do if I miss a day? Not a problem. Double up the dose next day. So if you're taking 5 grams and if you miss a day, take 10 grams next day. Like I mentioned before, it takes about 30 days to return to baseline levels. So miss a 1 day, nothing happens. Is creatine beneficial when you are on a calorie deficit? Absolutely, yes. Do you train novice powerlifters? Since you didn't see my message, I thought. Sorry about that. Yeah, so if any of you message me and if I haven't seen it, I really apologize. I really do my best. Sorry if I didn't see it. Yeah, I do train novice powerlifters. How often do we have to use it? And is it better consumption pre or post? Okay, talked about it. Do you need to creatine at all for this human body? When you phrase your questions that way, it's very hard for me to give a definitive answer. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to take creatine, but it's beneficial. So you decide. What are the times that someone should avoid creatine, if there's any? If you have pre-existing kidney conditions, you should monitor things closely. Yeah. Harmful? Okay, I think it's in the next one. I forgot to change it. Harmful? No, not at all. For optimum results, when you should consume pre-post workout, talked about it. Creatine available in tablets form, is it good for the body? Talked about it. Tablets are about 35% lower in bioavailability, so now my powdered version is better. Is there any long-term side effects for a person using correct dosage? No. Are there any negative effects if you stop using creatine? No. There's actually a study done in that area, tested that. No, the participant, they maintained the muscle mass and strength they gained during the time they use creatine. So yeah, no, you don't lose the benefits after you stop creatine. How much should a beginner take? Is there a loading phase? How long do you have it cycle for? Okay, I talked about it. Okay, that's another one. Is it bad to take 10 grams of creatine a day? 2 scoops of nitric? No. Mine never dissolves in water and have to keep mixing. Can we just throw it on a meal? Try micronized version. Is 10 gram of creatine with pre-workout too much? So 10 grams is not too much. Like I mentioned before, most people, 5 grams is enough for most people. This goes back to the caffeine thing. If your pre-workout have a lot of caffeine, maybe take creatine at a different time. There's limited evidence available at this stage. Is creatine loading a thing? Instead of 5 grams a day, you take 10 to 15 grams for a week and go back. Talked about it. Is it resulting hair loss? Talked about it. What about hair loss? Talked about it. When to use it for maximum efficiency? Talked about it. New to the game, just started with training a month ago. Is creatine essential? Ideal for me. Essential? Again, it's very hard to answer. The next part is it's ideal. Yeah, ideal. It's beneficial, so I recommend it. All right, that's it. Oh wow, that's over 40 minutes. I wanted to do this in 15 minutes. Wow. All right, I'm just gonna stop there. I will see you guys in a different video.